Good morning and welcome everybody to this Concise webinar. My name is Richard Keeves. This webinar today is how to plan effective content marketing for good SEO. Welcome along. Thank you for joining us. And thanks also to Gareth Lane for joining us. Gareth, say hello to the
Hello,
lot.
Gareth Lane voice reporting for duty.
And he's real as well. Okay. There are a lot of people here today. Not everybody has been to a previous Concise webinar, so I'll just quickly give you the little standard intro. These are Concise webinars by Concise Digital. We do try to keep them concise and make sure that they are educational without waffle and without long sales pitches. We do try to share some tools and some recommendations, but for how to improve your business and doing what you're doing in the online space, and that's what the sessions are all about. Before we begin, we are recording the session, and so if you do have to leave halfway through, then you can grab the recording from the Concise website, and you can also ask questions as we go along. So let's rip into it. What is content marketing? It's a question that gets asked a lot because it's in fact, someone said to me, isn't that just what we used to do or what we've always done, you know, producing information and passing it on to people? Yes, to a point, but really it's a marketing technique or a strategy that has a specific focus around it. And I'll just quickly read this. It's important to kind of get the key points in here. Content marketing, a marketing technique of creating and distributing. So there's a point. Creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content. Got to be valuable, got to be relevant, got to be consistent to attract and acquire a clearly defined audience. This is not just writing stuff and putting it out there for the sake of it. This is actually saying, let's try and attract and acquire an audience of people who we want to have in our business as customers. And with the objective, a very clear commercial objective of driving profitable customer action. So that's what we're talking about with content marketing. Really, it's a strategy and it's a technique, if you like. So the question that also gets asked a lot is, what sort of content works in this content marketing? And the answer that we generally say is look at the buyer's journey and understand what they're going through and the sort of content that they will be looking for at different stages of the journey. Then you can start to think about the sort of content that can work as you try to, let's just go back to this one, as you go back to creating it and to distributing it to attract and acquire the audience. Okay, what sort of content? It can be very diverse. It can be blogs. It can be, like, I'm not going to read this whole list. There's a whole lot of things that you can create. Case studies are great. FAQs are great. Stories from real customers are great. Testimonials, reviews. There's a whole lot of things. Key points. They've got to add value. They've got to be what people are looking for in their buyer's journey. And we would argue and contend that the content must nurture good relationships. It's got to help build, because not everybody is ready to buy at the time that they come across your content, whatever that content may be, and you need to be developing and maintaining relationships with them as you go along, so that you are nurturing the whole relationship and adding to it. Some people talk about, and we also talk about from time to time, using content as a magnet, to create magnets to draw people into your world. It's an interesting analogy, you know, and if it helps, then think about whatever you're doing as creating magnets that are going to draw people in. What I actually prefer is something that I wrote something about a while back. This is a concept called digital Burley. I don't know about you, but I like going fishing. And when I go fishing, I like to make sure that the fish are coming to me rather than me just fishing where there may or may not be fish. So what we do when we're fishing is we throw out Burley. What the Burley does, it attracts the fish in. And if you can get yourself in the right current and the right winds, then the Burley can go floating far and wide and attracting fish back, and the fish then follow up the Burley path and come back into the area where you are then able to catch them, whether you're catching them with a hook and some bait, or whether you're putting a bloody big net out and you're netting a whole lot of them. So when you create content well and share it well, it can spread and it can attract in your ideal customers. I reckon it's a pretty interesting analogy, and if you like, you can also attract in some pretty big fish, and that can be fun too. Content marketing is fun, and it's pretty useful. And just some points here about the benefits. It brings website traffic, helps engage your clients, turns into business, and gets you competitive advantages with more media, with more visibility, not just media visibility, but more visibility and awareness of your brand. So there's overall benefits to creating good content and putting it out there. So the other part of this webinar today is about SEO. What is SEO? Well, what most people know, but let me explain it, is it's search engine optimization. Now, what that is, as a little definition, is the process, and it is a process, it's not a once-off thing, the process, ongoing process of optimizing your website and your online presence to bring in free traffic from search engines with organic listings in the search engine. So that's what we're trying to do with SEO. And we do a lot of SEO at Concise. We've got a really effective approach. We can talk about that another day. So there are some key things that you need to think about, or that are important, fundamental, in fact, for good SEO. Quality content, that's optimized for SEO, plus these other things. Your website's got to be error-free. It's got to be mobile-friendly. It's got to have a high authority with lots of backlinks, so Google thinks that other people trust it as well. Ideally, an active social media presence, and it's got to load quickly. So those and various other factors are to do with for good SEO. But if you wanted to know the core things to get right with SEO, those are the things on the screen at the moment, and that's part of the key. So how does that then work with content marketing? Well, it's actually real that it does have a benefit. Creating content can Google and Bing, Microsoft's Bing search engine is very similar. Google's RankBrain rewards good long content. There's a concept called dwell time, and there's a concept called click-through rate, and both of these are really important for your SEO, and content marketing can assist. So dwell time is the length of time that a person spends looking at the web page when they click on it in the search engine results page and they go to your web page. The amount of time that they spend looking at your page before they go back to the search results, that's called the dwell time. And Google monitors that. Google tracks it. Google tracks a whole lot of things, right? And in your analytics and in Google's head, Google assesses how many people are clicking on your snippet in the search engine results page, and then when they click on that, how long are they staying? And if Google thinks that people are staying a long time, then it thinks they're getting good value, which means Google's delivered a good search result, and Google then says, well, I did that last time and people stayed, so I'll deliver that same search result next time as well. And then as that builds up over time, Google then starts to give a preference to people who have this long dwell time. Click-through rate, same deal. How many clicks a page gets relevant to how many impressions it receives. In other words, how many clicks does it get compared to how many times it's actually in the search results. So Google likes things that have got a high click-through rate. Google wants people to use Google's search engine, and the more people use Google's search engine, the more that they're going to use Google, and the more Google can show them ads and make money that way. So Google has a vested interest in making sure that it delivers great results, and it does this by assessing the sort of results that it delivers. Nothing happens by accident on Google, or very little in my experience. So, Gareth, I'm talking a bit here. Do you want to add anything else as we go along?
It is from Google Analytics, and if you're not sure how to find that information in Google Analytics, we did do a webinar a few months ago on that. You'll find it on our website. Otherwise, you're welcome to send either of us an email, and we can point you in the right direction how to find out that information for your own site.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so when we look at content, the reality is that putting a few words together is better than no words, but putting long content together is what is really going to help your search rankings if you do it well. Putting rubbish together will not help, and so no one should create more rubbish. The web is full of rubbish. It's got not full, but it's got a lot of rubbish enough already. There's some great content on the web, but there's also probably 100 times more rubbish. And so what Google's job is finding the great stuff and showing it to people when they search, and filtering out the rubbish. So we don't want to create rubbish, but also what we do want to do is help produce and help you create long content that actually works. And what you can see in this table here is the average content length of the top 10 results is actually over 2,000 words. This number down what is the y-axis is the average content length in words. So articles that are more than 2,000 words tend to rank better in the top 10 results, and 2,500 words, 2,300, 2,400 is not too long. They rank well. Okay, so there was a time back, it's one of the advantages of being old, we can kind of remember back, there was a time when the ideal length of content was about a page, and that was considered to be maybe 300 to 500 words, and Google said, that's what we want. We don't want a paragraph, we want a page. Then there was a time when that morphed into about 800 words. Now, long content is getting preferred by Google. So 2,000 words is not too long. 2,000 words of rubbish that's poorly written and poorly laid out, yeah, don't do it. 2,000 words of great content, absolutely. That is the sort of thing that Google likes, and more importantly, it's the sort of thing users like. Now, long content also earns more backlinks. Backlinks are links from other websites back to yours. And this is a chart from HubSpot, where the average word count, again down the y-axis there, shows that, if you can, hopefully you can see this clearly, but shows that over 750 to 1,000 words, it starts getting better by other websites wanting to link back to you. And over 2,500 words is better still, because more people who have other websites want to link back to great content, and they will do that when the content, and the longer the content and the better the content, the more you're likely to get other people linking to you. So this is creating backlinks. So longer content is usually more useful and more comprehensive on the particular topic than short content. Therefore, it delivers more value. Therefore, more people want to link back to it. And as we made a note there, longer content also gets shared more in social shares. So think about, when you're creating content, think about it's how useful it's going to be, but don't get put off about thinking that you need to keep it really short, because no, that's actually not the case. And it's not like the longer the better. Don't write 50,000 words. That's a book. Well, you can write a book, but just think about a good 2,000, 2,500 words, and that can rate really well. Okay, so how to create content. And I kind of added in the word here, easily. To be real, none of this is easy like a magic wand type easy. It all takes effort. But how to create great content and think about it and be able to get it done. Focus on what we call Q&A. Now, Q&A, not surprisingly, stands for questions and answers. So, firstly, coming back to the buyer's journey, understand the buyer's journey and understand the sort of questions that they have in their mind and the sort of answers that they will be looking for at each of the stages in their journey. If you can do that, you're well on the way and probably streets ahead of other people. And then you use that information to turn that into great content. Now, focus on the questions that customers ask at different stages. Think about these questions and then answer them in detail. Don't be frightened to add little sub-questions. If there's a main question and then there are some little sub-questions in that, you can add in these other questions and their answers, and you can make this thing that might have only been the equivalent of a page, now it can be 5 pages of really good stuff on a particular topic. Someone here today is from a business that supplies really good home renovation products, and how to install things, tips for how to do things when you're renovating a home. That sort of stuff can lend itself to really good content. And so questions and answers and sub-questions, including examples, success stories, testimonials, and proof that you've done it for others and that you can do it for the person who's looking at this particular article. The point down the bottom, make your content compelling. Make sure that it has a compelling title, not a bullshitty title, but a compelling, interesting title that has a promise that you then deliver on in the article itself. And description tags. Now, here's a process. We know this works because we've been doing it for years, and both with lots of different people. So this is a process. Think about the questions and answers in the buyer's journey. Make some notes. You can do this yourself or you can get help, but you can do this yourself if you think it through. Plan the questions and answers, write some notes about each of the questions and answers. You can record these. Some people struggle to put words on a page, like writing something. People have a writer's block. You don't have to struggle. You can just do notes and pass it on to someone else. Or you can get something recorded, whether it's on your phone or on audio, and then get somebody to transcribe the recordings. I've got a great transcriber that we use. He's in the Philippines. He's fantastic, and he turns things around very quickly, and he's relatively low cost, and he's so accurate. He's great. I'd love to recommend him to you. He's a lovely fellow. His name's Ian, and so we get stuff transcribed all the time, and that really helps in the production of content. Then once you've got the transcript back, then it needs to be edited, and it's a lot easier. A lot of people find it easier to edit things than to create things. So if you've already done the creation through getting some notes recorded and transcribed, then you've got some material you can edit. You can slap that into shape, and then get your customers, pass it on to a couple of sample customers, or if you've got a group of customers that you turn to for input feedback about things as you're going along, pass it on to them for their comments, get their feedback, and then use that feedback to improve the article. And then, as we say here, make it good, then publish it, and then rinse and repeat. Do it more, do it again, do it again, do it again. This is not a once-off thing. This is an ongoing thing. This is part of marketing. How to easily create great content. Forgive me for saying this, but we do this here at Concise. And so if you were happy, so get some help when you need it. And we actually have something we've established in the last 6 months. We've got a great content preparation team of people who are able to help you with this. The here end of the sales pitch. We don't even do sales pitches. That was just a point. So now they're coming along here. The top 10 ways to promote, and there's a couple of bonuses here if you do the maths. So there's more than 10 to promote and share your content. It's important to sort of think about how when you add it to your website, don't just add it to your website hoping that people are going to see it. Some will, but you need to let people know about it. So email your list and include links to the content, or segments on your list. People in your buyer's journey who are at particular stages for that content, send them a link. Send them an email with a link to it and say, hey, we've created this. It may be helpful for you. Have a look. Repurpose the content as FAQs on your website. Share it into online communities. You can find those in LinkedIn, in Facebook, in lots and lots of, in social media, but you can also find online communities in different areas, different groups that on Facebook. If you go looking for groups on Facebook, you'll find a multitude of things on almost every topic. And it's not just Facebook. There have been groups on the internet for the last 30 years. You just need to know how to find them. And they talk about different topics, and you can help answer questions in those areas and promote yourself in those communities. Find somebody, point number 4 there, you can find somebody who's an influencer in your industry and get a quote or their thoughts on a particular topic and include that in your content. Then once you've published this particular piece, you can send it to them, that influencer, and say, hey, here's the article. Maybe you can share it amongst your friends as well. You are mentioned in it, and your quote was really, really spot on. So thank you for that. And can you help promote this or help share it? Don't use share is a good word. You can also create, out of a 2,000 word article, you can probably create 20 different little extracts that you can use as points to include in social media posts. Don't just post it once saying, hey, we've done this 2,000 word article and it's got all the answers. You can do that, but don't just do that. You can pull out some key points, and maybe there's 20, maybe there's more key points that you can then have 20 different posts all linking back to that article. And so that's an interesting thing to do. When you include sources in your material that are experts in their particular field, you can include those when you share it. You can say, hey, here's the article we did on this, and it's got a quote in it from John Smith, who's one of the leading world authorities this topic. This is worth a read. Click here, whatever language you do, right? But that helps potentially give you extra credibility as you go through. So point number 7, when you've got these people who help, you can email them and let them know so they can share. You can use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good, and you can send people direct messages. And you can use Messenger as well in Facebook and various other forms. But you can then use direct messages to influencers and let them know about the content, and hopefully and encourage them or ask them to share it. People who have linked to similar content, you can find that through some analysis online about different topics, and then find the backlinks to people who have linked to that particular topic. You can then go back you can go to those people and say, hey, we've got a really good article on that topic as well. I saw you were interested in that topic. Here's something else from another perspective. You might like to have a look at that. And if you love it, or if you like it, can you maybe link to it as well? And then you can ask people for this. You can do other things. You can repurpose the content that you've created. You can turn that content into a video. You can turn it into a PDF. You can set it up as an ebook on a particular topic. You can add that ebook to your website and say, hey, join our mailing list and grab this ebook. Or you can just make it available to people. Or you can actually, point number 12, you can turn that content into a printed brochure or a handout to give to people when they come into your store, if that's the nature of your business. You say, hey, we've got this guide. Or you can put it on a thumb drive and you can say, hey, here's a PDF, and on that thumb drive can be other things as well. However it is that you can share it, do it obviously it's got to be cost effective, but do it in a way that adds value to the person who is the customer. They're the ones who we're trying to work with, and not just to get their business, but so that they say nice things about you, talk nice things about you to their friends as well. Okay, I've been talking too fast and too much, but this is a bit of a race through because we are it's a concise webinar, right? So the key takeaways. Hopefully you've got the point here. The content has to be good. The question is, for whom is it good? Firstly, it's got to be good for your customers. Okay. Ultimately, if it's not good for your customers, nothing else matters. So firstly, it's got to be good for your customers. Secondly, it's got to be good for Google and Bing, so that it's got to be constructed in a way that is going to be good for them, and that Google will say, oh, that's a good piece of content. I will include that in our search engines. And gosh, Google will say, people are clicking on that and they're staying with that. They're reading it for 20 minutes or whatever the number might be. They're dwelling in there, and Google then ranks you higher. So it's got to be good for your customers. It's got to be good for Google. And third, it's got to be good for your business. It's got to deliver, because part of this is a business objective to say we want to attract and acquire customers and build the profitable business. And so that's the focus. Okay, point number 2, content length. Content length is part of the solution. Short content has a place, but long content has a better place. Short content has a place these days in Google's answer box. That's the area on Google search results that has questions and answers. And so part of what you can do is include questions and answers in your long content that Google then likes and pulls out and displays in its Google answer box. And so you can code those in such a way so that Google says, oh, that's a question and answer that I'll be able to present in my answer box. So, but content, when you're looking at providing really helpful stuff for people, it's better to make it longer and more helpful than shorter and less helpful. Okay, and it's got to be valuable. We suggest answer questions. Always think about it from the perspective of questions. The same focus with questions is about problems. People are far more likely to spend money if they are fixing a problem, and far more likely to find something on the web if they're searching for an answer to a question they've got, preferably a burning, compelling question, and they find some really good results. So think about the questions and answer the questions. And then the fourth point there, share the content wisely. Think about it as being Burley that you're throwing out to attract a whole lot of fish, and make sure that the Burley has got links back to your site so that the people who see it can know where it's come from and they can come back into your website world. There you go. Well, there's a rip through about the topic of content marketing for effective SEO. And now we're ready to take questions. So very happy to take questions. If anyone's got any, please, now is a great time to ask. Gareth, I'll let you add a few more things to that while I catch my breath.
I don't get to comment much. I think Richard nailed most of that. One thing I did also think of as we were going through, something else you can do which will help not only your SEO but also help your website rank online, is adding questions and answers to your Google My Business profile. That's the map-based listing. It's a really easy one to go and add a list of familiar asked questions to, and you might also find that customers have asked some questions that you haven't yet answered. So keep an eye on your Google My Business profile for any questions that are in there that you can answer, and also you can add your own as well. So it's another little top tip.
Gareth, there's a question coming about, can you, and we know you said it a different webinar, but can you explain how we can find this out in Google Analytics?
Which bit, sorry? Find out what in Google Analytics?
Presumably about what questions or what search results people are using to come into the website.
Oh, okay, I see. So in Google Analytics, you can go down on the left-hand side under Acquisition, and then under All Traffic, and then Source and Medium, and then in there you'll be able to see the where traffic came from, and there'll be a couple of different options. You'll have sort of Google Organic or paid or social, direct, so on. And then if you click on the Google Organic one, you'll be able to see the search terms that are in there. Alternatively, if you have Google Search Console, which is another Google product, and if you're a client of Concise, then let us know, because you probably won't have access by default, but we can get you access if you need it. You can go in there and go to Search Console Queries, and then that will then show you the queries that people have used for your site. Another handy one in there is the landing pages. So that is what page the user landed on when they landed on your website, and it's quite often not the home page. So a mistake a lot of people make is they put all the effort into their home page, and then they but don't check their actual landing pages for where clients or customers have gone to. And so you just need to look at all the pages in your Google Analytics and make sure that all your unique selling points and useful information and good content is on all of those landing pages, not just the home page.
Okay, thank you. And we've got another question. Can you talk briefly about how much it costs to get Concise to do the content work? Okay, well, yes, but I don't want to turn this into a sales presentation. Basically, it's prices start from a few $100s a month, and you can get you can get stuff started to be done for that. Basically, what we like to do though is help empower you to do as much as you can yourself, and then we can do the bits that you can't do or don't want to do. Okay. Any other questions? No, I think that's about it. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. If you've got any other questions after this, please don't hesitate to contact either myself or Gareth. Thanks very much for participating in today's session. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please don't hesitate to ask questions, and if we can help you in any way, we will. Gareth?
What Richard said. Well done. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.